Florida is a Republican state. It has Republican senators, a Republican governor, and it voted for Trump in 2016. It's a Republican state that Democrats win sometimes. The polls show that Biden is leading the state by 3.4 points, but if you look at the race in Florida over the last 6 months, you will see that the numbers between Biden and Trump widen and shrink, widen and shrink. It was a less than 3 point race before June, widened to a 6 to 7 point lead for Biden in June, July, and now we are at less than 5 points. It's a lead, but an unstable one. And we are talking about Republican territory, and Trump has demographic advantages in the state, especially in the form of senior above 65 voters who always vote Republican. So no matter what the lead is, Trump will always fancy his chances in Florida. Florida opened up for early in-person voting yesterday. 339,000 people voted, with Republican votes up by 3,802. As usual, media started screaming saying that Republicans are voting more than Democrats, which is missing the forest for the trees. It's the same as talking about Biden's lead in Florida nonstop. Including mail-in ballots and in-person early votes, Republicans are now at 953,000, Democrats are at 1.42 million. I'm not saying Democrats have an overwhelming edge in Florida. I'm not saying that because we have 577,000 independent votes. No one until the day of counting will know which direction this group has swung. If they went for Biden, Democrats will win by a wide margin. If they went for Republicans, the race will be decided by less than 100,000 votes and anybody can win. Florida was a toss-up. Is a toss-up, and it will remain a toss-up. Unlike other states, even if the turnout goes high in Florida, it doesn't necessarily mean a Biden win. You never know until the votes are counted. Biden has to hold on to his lead in Florida up until November 3rd, and he has to turn out the vote. Even then, he can only win by a small margin. The possibility of a landslide in Florida is extremely small. Now, I have a completely different view for Texas. If turnout goes higher, Biden's chances improve. And the reason is very simple. It's the demographics. White voters are at or below 50%. African Americans, Hispanics, and other people make up the rest. Biden is doing well with white women and white educated men, and he is doing extremely well with African Americans and holds an edge over Trump with Hispanic voters in Texas. So if the turnout goes higher, Biden's chances improve. And Texas continues to break records. The speed of early voting has not come down. On the first day of early voting, 751,000 people voted. On Sunday, 570,000 people voted. By Sunday night, 4.68 million people in Texas have already locked their vote, which is more than the number of people who voted for Ted Cruz in 2018 and nearly the same number of votes that went for Donald Trump in 2016. So we are now slightly above the 50% of 2016 turnout and still managed to bring in 500,000 votes on a Sunday. The odds are extremely high to add another 2 million votes through Friday, which will take the turnout to 75% of 2016, and we should possibly get very close to 2016 turnout by October 30. In Florida, despite the nominal increase in early in-person votes from the Republican side, the Republicans are still behind the Democrats, 956,000 votes to 1.43 million votes, a 1.5 to 1 lead for the Democrats. Slightly below the 2-1 national advantage, and it's understandable because Florida status is the toss-up. And keep watching this lead shrink as we get closer to November 3rd. Now, what will be Biden's lead with the early vote in Texas? Since Texas does not break out voting information based on party, it's a bit difficult to assess. Today, a Democratic pollster, Data for Progress, released the polls it conducted between October 13th and October 18th in Texas. The poll has Biden ahead by a single point. They are a Democratic pollster, so let us take that number with a pinch of salt. But they also asked people who voted in this election who they voted for. And it split 57 for Biden and 41 for Trump. 57 to 41 exactly mirrors or very closely mirrors Florida's early voting and mail-in ballot split between Republicans and Democrats. Extrapolated for Texas, it will be 1.03 million for Republicans and 1.43 million for Democrats. Biden could very well be sitting on a 500,000 plus lead in Texas right now. But as I said, that lead will certainly evaporate as more and more Republicans start voting, and also due to the massive advantage the Republicans will bring on the election day. The key for Biden to win Texas is to keep turning out the votes. The earlier it crosses 8.9 million votes, 2016 turnout, the better. The higher it gets from the brighter Biden's chances are. Democratic Super PAC Forward Majority has committed to spend an extra $16 million in key legislative races in Arizona, Florida, Texas, and North Carolina. With the new announcement, Texas will be the top spend for the Super PAC, bringing in $12 million, followed by Florida with $11.8 million. Though the additional money is aimed at local races, it will help turn out the vote in Texas. It's a small step, but one that could help people coming out to vote. So this is my take on both the races in Texas and Florida. No matter what the Democrats say about their lead in Florida, it will remain a toss-up until November 3rd. No matter what the Republicans say about Texas, it will remain a toss-up until November 3rd. Both states can be won by Trump and both states can be won by Biden. I will be surprised if any candidate win either state by more than 100,000 votes. It is going to be tight. Thanks for watching. If you like the content, please subscribe.